All right, let's get right into it. What we're unpacking today is this really fascinating historical text. It's part prayer, but it's also like a deeply personal inventory. We're going to follow this journey of someone who starts off feeling completely and totally unworthy. And then they just start listing out this incredible catalog of blessings they believe came straight from God.
So, boom, right from the very first line, the tone is just set. You can feel it. This is so much more than a simple, polite thank you. It's this all encompassing, like full body expression of gratitude. The author is literally calling on every single part of themselves, their body, their mind, their soul, for one single purpose: to give thanks. It's, wow, it's intense, and you can tell it's deeply, deeply personal.
But then, here's the twist, right? Before we even get a hint of those blessings, we start at absolute rock bottom. I mean, the author uses the harshest words you can imagine for themselves, things like utterly vile and perfectly useless. And that just grabs you, you know? It's a fantastic hook, because you're immediately asking, wait, how could someone who thinks this about themselves be getting all this divine favor? That contrast, that tension, that's what drives this whole entire piece.
So here's the game plan for our journey through this. First, we'll dive into that feeling of unworthiness. Then we'll check out two big sets of gifts, a batch of 6 promises, and then 5 super personal blessings. And to wrap it all up, we'll see how the author reacts to, well, all of it.
Okay, first things first. We're going to really dig into this starting point of humility. Because you have to understand, this isn't just some throwaway line. It is the absolute foundation for everything else that's about to come. It's where the author builds their entire idea of grace from. And what's so important to notice here is that, while this isn't a story for us, the author isn't talking to you or me. This is a direct conversation with God. It's almost like they're taking stock, like creating a spiritual balance sheet, listing out every single gift they've gotten, and the whole reason for doing it is because they feel like they did absolutely nothing to earn any of it. This is where it gets really interesting. You can see the central conflict, the main paradox, laid out right here. On one side, you've got how the author sees themselves: vile, useless, full of fear. But then look at the other side. God's actions seem to be saying something completely different, that this person is worthy of mercy, that they're a valuable instrument, that they are getting all these incredible promises. The whole text just lives in that gap, that tension between those two viewpoints.
All right, so coming out of that place of deep humility, the author moves into the first big list. We're talking about 6 specific promises, or maybe privileges, that they believe have been granted. And what's key here is, it's not just for them, it's also through them for other people. So here are the 6 promises, just to give you the big picture. They really cover a lot of ground, from advice on sacraments to getting protection from your own mistakes, and even this wild idea that the author can be a channel for grace to other people. We're about to jump into a few of these more closely.
Okay, hang on. Before we go any further, let's just make sure we're all on the same page with a super important word here: grace. In this context, when the author talks about grace, they mean unearned favor. This is the key takeaway, right? These aren't rewards. They're not for being good. They are gifts, pure and simple, given out of love, and they have nothing to do with whether the person deserves them or not.
Okay, this first promise it's just beautiful. It basically says that if you feel totally unworthy, if you're too scared to approach a sacrament, but you do it anyway with a humble heart, then God himself will see you as worthy. Think about that. The very thing you think disqualifies you, that feeling of unworthiness, actually becomes the key that unlocks the whole thing. It's a total reversal.
And the second promise, wow, this one is just filled with so much hope. It's all about breaking out of those negative cycles we all get into, right? The idea is that God has promised, if you genuinely confess your screw-ups with a truly humble heart, he'll help protect you from making that same mistake again. It's not a promise that you'll be perfect overnight, but it is a promise of making real progress. Now, this third promise, this one is just mind-blowing. The author genuinely believes that God has promised to back up their own words. Let that sink in. If the author promises someone mercy or a favor in God's name, God will make it happen, like it was a promise from God himself. I mean, this completely flips the script. The person who called themselves useless is now a trusted agent for divine grace. It's incredible. So that first batch of promises was mostly about grace working through the author for other people. But now we're about to shift gears.
This next section gets way more personal. We're looking at 5 blessings that are at the very core of who the author is, spiritually speaking.
And just look at the journey here. It's a clear progression, right? It kicks off with the basic fundamental gift of just being chosen for a life of faith. Then it moves to God actively pulling them closer, even when they're resisting. And the peak, the culmination of it all, is this incredibly intimate relationship where God actually takes pleasure and delight in the author's soul. That's a huge journey.
And here we go again. The author just keeps hammering this point home. None of this is earned. It all flows from what they call God's immense charity and has absolutely zero to do with their own merit. The text does this over and over. It puts these massive, incredible gifts right next to the author's feeling of nothingness, just to show you how completely radical and, well, graceful this whole thing is.
So let's just zoom in on that first one for a second. The gratitude here isn't just for being a Christian in general. It's for being chosen for a specific religious path, and the text says, in preference to many others. You can almost hear the sense of wonder in the writing, can't you? That feeling of, why me, of all people? It really drives home the idea that this was a direct gift, something they could never have earned. This part is just brilliant. It perfectly explains the logic of grace that's running through this whole thing. The author says, look, the reason God is so close to me isn't because I'm great. It's the opposite. God chose them specifically so that his divine charity would be even more obvious to everyone else. It's like God is saying, if I can love and unite with someone this flawed, just imagine how big my love really is. So the author's flaws, they actually become the canvas for showing off God's masterpiece.
So, okay, we've gone through all the promises, all the personal blessings. They've laid it all out. What's the result of all this? Where does it leave the author? Well, it brings us to the final part of this journey, and the feeling is one of being completely, totally, and utterly overwhelmed.
And this, right here, is the emotional peak of the whole chapter. After making this massive list, the author basically throws up their hands and says, it's too much. The gifts are so huge, and I am so small, that there's no way I can ever say thank you enough. It's impossible. The debt is just too big. And notice what's happened. We've come full circle, back to that feeling of smallness. But this time, it's not about shame. It's about pure, unadulterated awe.
So what do you do with that problem? How do you even begin to give thanks for the impossible? Well, the text comes up with this just beautiful, elegant solution. The author realizes that God already thought of that. He's arranged for other people to help give thanks on their behalf. The entire community, everyone, helping to pay back this debt of gratitude. So the grace is given to one person, but the thank you becomes this big, collective communal celebration. And so all of this leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Think about it. We started with this deep, profound humility, and it seemed to trigger this avalanche of grace. But then we ended with all that grace creating an even deeper sense of humility and awe. So what comes first? Is humility the prerequisite, the key you need to unlock grace? Or is it the other way around? Is it the mind-blowing experience of receiving grace that is the only thing that can make you truly humble? It's kind of a chicken and egg question, and it's right at the very heart of this incredibly powerful piece of writing.